Howdy ESSM 406. Welcome to Unit 4 of this class. This is the last unit, so we're getting near the end. It'll be Christmas break soon. It'll be Thanksgiving break even sooner. And I have some bad news for you guys. We've been studying a lot of different aspects of policy and policy making, different kinds of policy problems, different kinds of policy tools. This last unit, very briefly, we're going to talk about how policies get made, how they're implemented, and how they're changed. And most of the things that you've learned elsewhere in this class, and most of the things that you learn elsewhere as an ESSM major or a wildlife major or other natural resource or environmental major, don't apply to how policies get made. What do I mean by that? Well, policies are made by political processes. They're also implemented by political processes. What's politics? Politics is people arguing about stuff, people disagreeing, people fighting, right? And all these kind of very rational things we've been going through, how different kinds of policy solutions may be more or less well suited to a particular problem, and things you've been studying in other classes about how natural resources work, how they should be managed. Most of those don't come into the argument most of the time. So that's a little disappointing for us as scholars, and for you as someone who wants to be an ecosystem manager. Most of the time, the policies that we're using are not ideal. They weren't often they weren't designed for the purposes that they're being used for, and often they're really, really, really imperfect. They may not be the best solution to the problem. Just to give you a quick example, the idea, which is the policy, the law here in Texas, that groundwater is the property of the person who owns the land above that piece of groundwater, is really problematic because, well, if you think about it, groundwater flows. So it might be under your land now, but it's not going to be there in next year or even potentially in 5 minutes, depending on how the subsurface hydrology works. But the law says that, and people are going to fight to keep it that way. Regardless of you saying that, well, this is a common pool resource, and it might be better if common pool resources were managed in a different way, and we can have this cap and trade program. We can have this community management. Well, if you do that, some landowners are going to vote you out of office. Or they're going to sue you and say, well, the law says this, I have my rights. So this last unit is about different ways of looking at this set of problems. How do policies actually get made? And I'm actually an optimist about this. I just told you that policies don't get made based on any kind of rational analysis, careful planning, or anything like that. But I think they can get made that way, and sometimes they do. So we're going to read about some places where they don't get made that way. And we're going to read about some places where they do get made that way and why. And sometimes the why is because there's someone really smart in the right place at the right time and they make a really good decision. But sometimes the why is because a bunch of people like you might care a whole lot about an issue, and they go out there and they say, well, we're going to make a difference. We're going to change what's happening here. So we're going to read a little bit about how you can make that change. So in the next set of videos, I'm going to talk a little bit about the readings, try to tie them together because they don't actually tie as well together as readings in the previous units. And I'm going to talk about what your assignment is for this. And finally, I'm going to talk about what your assignment is on your final essay. So stay tuned.